Hello, everybody. My name is Atulya Sarin. I am a professor at Santa Clara University in the Department of Finance. I have been here at Santa Clara since 1992. Well, to put that in context, that's before cell phones and before there was a worldwide net, essentially. There was no internet at that point in time. And yes, people did survive. And I've actually had the good fortune to be here in the Silicon Valley and at Santa Clara starting then, because what we saw was a true technological revolution, and I clearly being here had a front row seat to it. I have had the great fortune of seeing many of my students get involved in some of the most wonderful companies in the Bay Area, which started off as startups and have become sort of mega names at this point in time. I've also had the good fortune to work with many of them and with many governmental agencies, including the SCU, the Department of Justice, the IRS, and so on. So what I hope, and we hope essentially, is that to spend the next 15 minutes with you and hopefully convince you to at least look at the Levy School of Business and the Department of Finance very seriously. Here, along with me, we have a couple of other colleagues of mine and some students. So let me hand it over to them. Seoyoung?
To introduce myself, I'm Seoyoung Kim. I haven't been here quite as long as Professor Sarin. I joined in 2012, and lately I predominantly specialize in fintech, which is looking at how technological innovations have been really disrupting the way that we perform basic finance. We also have two students who are joining us in this presentation today, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So Julian, could you say a little bit about yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Julian and I'm a senior finance major, originally from Pleasanton, California, which is located roughly 30 miles northeast of Santa Clara.
And Marialisa?
Hi, so I'm Marialisa Caruso. I'm also a senior finance major at Santa Clara with a double minor in creative writing and international business. I'm from San Jose, California, and I've been a commuter student at Santa Clara since my freshman year.
So I want to start by talking about why study business specifically at Santa Clara University. We have small class sizes. We're a very high-touch institution, and you'll get more personal connections directly to faculty. We don't have grad students teaching our classes. We do have very high-quality faculty and students, which Professor Sarin will talk about shortly. We also have quite a bit of flexibility within the business school curricula, which means that even if you don't quite know which area of business, we obviously think it should be finance, but if you don't quite know yet, there's a lot of the earlier classes that can port over from one major to the other. Another big plus is that we're strategically located for direct access to innovative firms. Like I mentioned, I specialize in fintech, and having specific access to a lot of these technologically innovative firms is going to be very important in terms of automatically being plugged in and being able to talk to people with respect to landing your first internships and your jobs.
So finance is at the heart of most of business. So broadly speaking, finance involves two different segments. Either you could be working in corporate finance, and in corporate finance, what you tend to do is you effectively try to quantify the impact of any decision. It could be like whether to launch a marketing campaign, or it could be about whether to go out and acquire a company, or it could be about whether to launch a new product. What people in finance we tend to do really is we try to effectively convert that decision into dollars and cents, as to try to understand what impact that will have on your firm's profits and valuation. The other aspect of finance is more to do with investments. So if you were trying to sort of decide whether to acquire a company, and then the question would be how much would you pay for it? Or if a company was going and having an IPO, you would have to figure out what the appropriate IPO price should be. Or if you were trying to just go out and make an investment in a particular stock, you would need to know what the appropriate price should be. So these are the two segments of finance, and it kind of, these particular skills are very important in all aspects of business. And So people in finance can actually, we'll talk a little bit more about the opportunities, they can actually work, have very valuable skills. These are quantitative skills which can easily be applied and are very desirable. So finance is clearly a very important way to go. And as you can see, we have a very extensive faculty. And these are just a few. And you will notice that some of them are truly the world leaders essentially in their area. I know many of you probably don't yet read the Wall Street Journal, though I guess you should. But if you would see Mayer Statman, who is a behavioral economist, who essentially studies how investors behave in the sense of how the thought process impacts their decisions. You would see him quoted extensively, and he writes columns for them very regularly, and many other kind of publications also. Or you have somebody like Sanjeev, who like Seoyoung is more into financial engineering, and he's extremely well intertwined with whatever is going on in the Valley. He is currently working half-time at Amazon and then helping them build some fascinating models about their supply chain and so on. But this is just what he's doing this year. He has previously worked for many, many other large Silicon Valley companies and has been quite instrumental in some of the artificial intelligence work which has been done in those areas. Or we have Bob Hendershot, who runs his own private equity fund, and clearly is considered one of the leaders in that particular area. So these people are what we have essentially we have people who are extensively qualified in the sense of having the academic credentials, but Santa Clara is kind of unique in that respect that we also have these people who have had an opportunity to go out and get work in the real world, and they bring that real world experience back to the classroom. By the way, worth mentioning is Carrie Pan, our department chair. She's of course a renowned scholar, but most importantly from my perspective is that she is somebody we had as a student, and now she has come back to essentially work for us.
To turn our attention now to what your specific experience in finance would be like at Santa Clara University, we have our core classes that would provide the basic foundation, not just in finance, but also across all business majors. And then we have the core finance classes that you would take before you have access to a very wide menu of electives that we also have. I want to turn the floor back over to our current students to ask what their experience has been in class and what their favorite elective has been. So Marialisa, would you like to start?
Sure. So my favorite elective is actually not listed here. It's Finance 198, which is the internship elective. So every business major gives you the option to take on an internship in place of sitting in class. So it gives you real life experience. And I actually took mine while I was abroad in Milan, Italy. So that's another thing that the business school encourages you to do is go out into the world and sow your seeds and figure it out for yourself. And through my internship, I was an analyst, and I learned that I did not like sitting at a desk all day looking at a computer. And that's when I realized that I really wanted to go out and start my own business, which is actually what I'll be pursuing after graduation. I've started a financial advisory firm with my dad, and once I pass my licensing exams, I'll be able to officially take on the position of COO.
Nice. And how about you, Julian? What has your experience been with the classes, and what was your favorite elective?
Yeah, I think one of the key benefits about Santa Clara's finance program is that, especially as you get to your sophomore, junior, and senior year, you can really see like what type of finance that you want to get into, and we have electives that you could choose to those likings. So, for example, my favorite was intro to risk management because I actually had an internship at AIG, and the internship in the class had some of the same curriculum and material where it helped me succeed in the workforce. So these are just some examples of how the classes correlate to real life examples.
And then now the most important aspect of it. After you're going to make such a large investment essentially on your education, you clearly want to effectively have an opportunity to go and do interesting stuff. And the finance clearly provides you many different opportunities. So over the years, what I've seen essentially is that our students work in three broad areas. The first area is more to do with working in corporate finance. So almost all Silicon Valley companies are always looking for interns, and eventually many of those internships get converted into jobs. They're looking for help in their financial as financial analysts, working in many of their different groups. And in those situations, what you're involved with is really going out and trying to go out and help those companies make good decisions regarding their products, their marketing, and so on, and their acquisitions. And that many of our students work in that area. More recently, I've seen more people go in the area of investments. Traditionally, the investment banks were mostly New York banks, and with little operations here in the Silicon Valley. But over the years, that has drastically changed because Silicon Valley is clearly a much more important and relevant market segment now. So consequently, you have many of our students going out and working in Silicon Valley banks, and of course, some New York banks also, but you see a lot more of that going on. The third, which is a more recent trend, is students coming directly and working in either VC firms or in private equity firms. Again, there many years back, you had to have a lot more experience to be able to get those kinds of jobs. So you would not typically find the young students being able to get out of college and get those jobs. But that is changing as there are a lot more companies involved in that. You see students directly coming in and trying to go and work in that area. And an off late, I mean, many of our students, I know Seoyoung can talk more about that, but the thing is that many of our students actually seem to be working in cryptocurrency and financial engineering, things of that. There are more specialized firms which are just dealing with it. Bottom line really is the best part about being at Santa Clara is the fact that being where we have access to tremendous amount of internships. We have access to tremendous amounts of very interesting companies. You have access to sort of a whole wide variety of companies, starting from young startups to mid-level companies to very large companies. And that has been the biggest pleasure of me being here at Santa Clara, as to having seen students go all the way from actually going out from being involved in startups to effectively joining some interesting firms. And then we have an incredible alumni, which effectively helps you navigate that. I mean, we have our students working at all different levels in many different companies, say the CFO at Google, or many students in very high senior positions, many in mid-level positions, and they really help you navigate you to try to get the job. Julian, are you going to be working right after college?
Yes, actually, I'll be at Ernst & Young, also known as EY, being a risk advisor based out in San Francisco.
So any last pitch which you have, or why people should join Santa Clara University and our Department of Finance?
Yeah, I think one of the underrated aspects of Santa Clara's business school and finance in general is the network. We are truly located everywhere, and Santa Clara is a small community where the name holds value and separates you in the job application process.
Anything you want to add, Marialisa, before we sign off?
Yes, so actually finance is a great major, as we've discussed, because you can use it for absolutely anything. So even if you're not interested in going directly into the financial sector, you can use it as a background for whatever your true interest is, or even the individual classes that you take here at Santa Clara as a business student. For example, this past year, I've officially become an award-winning actress, because for the past 4 years since I've started at Santa Clara, I've had the opportunity to work on an independent feature film project, and have since progressed my way up from associate producer, extra, to rewriter, co-writer, actress, that I wrote for myself. And that was all because of the classes that I took at Santa Clara. Truly and honestly, it was my Excel class that allowed me to go up to the executive producer and say, hey, we need help with budgeting. I could put it into an Excel sheet, got the job. Then I noticed that there were some issues in the script, so I began editing. Previous writer backed out. We needed to rewrite for the scenes that we had already shot. Rewrote, gave a role to myself, and now we're traveling around the world, accepting awards. So
Excellent.
Anything you want to do is possible with finance.
There you go. And I couldn't have said it better. And by the way, this is truly the value of the Jesuit education. Sort of, we definitely try to effectively train you to become a person who can essentially learn to take whatever skills they acquire and be able to go out and apply into to any and all your interest. And as you know, interests change over time. I really do appreciate, we all do appreciate your being listening in, and I'm seriously hoping that you will look at Santa Clara very, very carefully, and all goes well.